What happens when your side wins the fight? The drunken cultural brawl that you've been caught up in for nearly 2 decades. And then the rules change midway through. That's the crisis that I'm currently facing when it comes to the beauty and power, and lately even the definition, of television as an art form. When I first began watching television, there didn't seem to be much to argue about. Like many children of the 70s, I grew up sitting cross-legged in front of a big console in the living room, singing along to the Electric Company while my mom made Kraft macaroni and cheese. I dug Taxi. I loved MASH. In my teens, I memorized Monty Python sketches with my friend Maria. But I also regarded TV the way that Americans had been taught to since the 1950s. Television was junk. It wasn't worthy of deep thought the way that books or movies might be. It was something that you enjoyed, then forgot about. It wasn't until my 30s that I had what amounted to a soul-shaking conversion. On the night that I watched Sunnydale High School principal Bob Flutie die, torn to bits by hyenas. At the time, in the spring of 1997, I was a literature doctoral student at NYU, foggily planning on becoming a professor, maybe a Victorianist, but anyway, someone who read for a living. Every morning, I woke up, flopped onto the sofa, and opened up yet another 900-pager. Across the room was an old-fashioned console TV, a dinosaur even for the era, with a broken remote control. So in order to watch my first episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I had to physically walk across the room, then click the circular dial over to channel 11, to the WB, a brand new netlet, and then walk all the way back to the sofa. Walking across the room to change the channel was still a perfectly normal thing to do in 1997. It had been nearly 60 years since the first television, spookily nicknamed the Phantom Teleceiver, launched at the 1939 World's Fair, and yet the medium was, with a few advances, like the addition of color and the still tentative expansion of cable, not that different than what it had been in the 1950s, when families gathered to watch Milton Berle. Shows aired once a week. They were broken up by ads. When the ads were on, you peed. When they ended, someone in the other room would yell, "You're missing it!" and you'd run back in. If you loved a particular show, you had to consult the elaborate grids in the print newspaper or in TV Guide to know when to watch. Alf, closed captioned, comedy. Alf is upstaged by a lovable dog that followed Brian home, so he gives the pooch away to a crotchety woman, Anne Ramsey. The main thing, though, was that television went away. It was a disposable product, like a Dixie cup. Although scripted television hadn't aired live for many decades, it still felt live. You could watch rental movies on your VCR, and for a few years they were everywhere. But most people I was friendly with didn't regularly pre-program theirs to record much TV, because doing so was such a pain in the ass. Spinning 3 plastic dials, one for the day, one for the hour, and one for the minute. Each videotape held only a few hours of programming. Rewinding and fast-forwarding were clumsy processes, and pausing might break the tape. There were no DVDs yet, let alone DVRs. Even if you were an early internet adopter, which I was, dialing in was a grindingly slow, unreliable process. And when you did connect with the hostile shriek of static that we optimistically called a handshake, no videos showed up, just a wall of blinking neon fonts. Nothing, ever, arrived on demand. This glitchy, ephemeral quality, and the ads that broke up the episodes, were a major part of TV's crappy reputation. This part may be hard to remember, even if you lived through it. But just before the turn of the century, nearly universally, by default, and with an intensity that's tough to summon up now, television itself was viewed as a shameful activity, as chewing gum for the eyes, to quote drama critic John Mason Brown. This was true not only of snobs who boasted that they didn't even own a TV. It was true of people who liked TV. It was true of the people who made it, too.